So today I'm going to demonstrate how I make these cute little Matchbook minis, Matchbook mini books with the, I guess it's a quadruple fold and then the little fold over flaps and pockets. In this demo, I'm just going to demonstrate how to score, cut, and fold the book. And then in another video I will show how I decorated them and the different materials I used. So for this one I used my Queen of Hearts collage book from my collaboration with Emily Stone at Collage Soup, and that was really fun to make. And I feel like it's not finished. I want to do some more to it, but I got the foundation down. This was also from one of Emily's Collage Soup books, a fairy one. And it has, I love the butterflies and the fairies and the text. This was the very first one I made years ago during a class called The Art of Sisterhood. And it was with my sister Cara Bullock, and I was a guest teacher in that group. And this book is painted. So these two books are covered with collage paper. And this one is acrylic paint and some text and things like that. And this one was made using a manila file folder. The other two were made using the Strathmore Tantone mixed media paper, and that's what I'm going to demonstrate here. You can use a file folder. You just need a piece of thick paper. It could be cardstock, it could be a manila file folder, mixed media paper. You don't have to use tone tan paper, it's just what I prefer and what I have on hand. You could use white, you could use black, and I'm going to demonstrate how to measure, score, cut, and fold the Matchbook Mini. So to start, like I said, you want a piece of paper that is 8.5 by 11. And you will need either a ruler, pencil and ruler, cutting mat, or a scoring board, which is what I have here. And I think these are the easiest to use because they have score marks in them already. And so using the boning tool is easy to make the mark, but it is just as easy to do it on a cutting board using a pencil and ruler. Using the boning tool helps with the fold. It doesn't necessarily help with the measuring. So starting on the short side of the paper, you're going to use your boning tool or your ruler and pencil to make the first set of marks. Let me move these out of the way. I'm going to open this up. So the first set of marks, these scores are wide and basically blocking your paper. So the first one is at 2 7/8 inch. So putting the corner of your paper at the edge of your cutting board with the scoring marks, or my cutting mat is so bad. Starting at the edge of your cutting mat and going in to 7/8 inch or 7 3/7, and then the next scoring line will be 5 3/4 or 4.6 centimeters, and the instructions will be in the available below. So measuring out 2 7/8 and just marking that down. And I don't know if you can see how the boning tool and the scoring lines help create that little indent, and so it helps you fold your paper. So 2 7/8 and then 5 3/4. Okay, and then the next set of marks are on the 11-inch side of the paper, the long side. And again, you're going to line the edge of your paper up with 0, and we're going to do 3 scoring marks along the long side. Actually, no, that's not right. We're going to do 6. They'll be closer together. So this one is going to be at 2 7/8 and at 3 inches. Oops. And then the next one is at 5 7/8 and 6 1/8. The next one is at 9 and 9 1/4. Alright, so for video purposes, I'm going to do this again over the same piece of paper, but on my cutting mat with a dark pen so that you can see the lines and see what it should look like when you're done. So again, starting at the short edge, we're going to measure in 2 7/8. So if you're just doing a ruler and pencil, I would measure that, you know, a few times down the line. And then that's our first mark. So that's at 2 7/8 inches or 7.3 centimeters. The next one is at 5 3/4. So again, doing your marks. Alright, that's your short edge lines. Now your long edge, you're going to start at, I'm going this way, two and 7/8 and 3 inches. So we're making 2 lines close together. These are going to be your folding lines. The next measure is at 5 7/8 and 6 1/8. 5 7/8, 6 1/8. And your final marks are at 9 and 9 1/4. Alright, so whether you have scored your lines or drawn your lines, they should look, your card should look like this. The next thing we're going to do is to cut out these spaces here, and you could use an X-Acto knife or you could use scissors, and I usually use a combination of both, and I just think it's easier to cut with scissors this long part, and then I take my X-Acto to get the line in between. But if you want to be super neat and tidy, cat hair. So you're going to cut out all these small pieces. So it's like that. Okay? Not the ones in the middle, just the ones on the outside. So in my instruction sheet, I have you cut out all 3 of these, but you only need to cut out these 2 because we're going to cut off this whole top corner here. So if you cut these out, that's fine. You're just gonna then be cutting this off, which I've done many times. And then I thought, why? That's just extra work. I love making these little books. They're so fun. All right. And then the next you're going to cut off the two small pieces. So we've cut off the two center narrow segments on each side. These are going to become your flaps. And then this one we're going to cut, this one we're cutting off. Okay, so now your card looks like this. Okay, so this is what your card should look like, and you want to save these. The next thing that we're going to do is cut off half of the alternate flaps, and when we fold these over, they will become your pockets. Okay, so that's about 3 inches, so I'm going to mark it at 1.5. And this one is a little bit less than. Don't want to cut that one. You want to go every other. So this one is 2 3/4. So I'm going to cut it off at like between 1 and what is that? 1 1/4 and 1.5 in the middle. Okay, and this one again was 3 inches, so marking that at 1.5. All right, and then we just want to cut these off. If you had fancy scissors, you could use those. Save these also. So these small sides now are going to become your pockets. So you just fold them inward. Like that. And using glue or double-sided tape, you can adhere the hinges to the sides to make pockets. And I'm using my boning tool to help with that fold. All right, so those will be the pockets, and then we're going to finish the folding before we glue the pockets. Okay, so then you can fold in the bottom flap towards the pocket. And I'm using my boning tool. Okay, and then this one goes that way. This one goes that way. And then you fold it up. This is where the scoring marks are really helpful. You can see how it's square there. And then this flap comes over like that. So I like to fold it all up before I decorate it. Now to adhere the hinges, you can use glue, you can use double-sided tape, which is what I'm going to use. I have a ton of double-sided carpet tape from another project, so I am just going to use that. See, I feel like I'll never use it up. And I'm just cutting skinny strips, but if you've got a nice tacky glue, you could use that. I've used Elmer's double-sided tape. You don't need very much. Putting that there. I try to keep it closer to the hinge than up top. Need one more piece. Just because I think it's easier to put your little card in it. I'm going to peel these off. And I've done this both ways, where I've painted or covered the whole piece of paper after I've cut it and done the folds, covered it with paper before folding the hinges up, because you can see how it's not perfect. I'm not perfect. I don't know if I care that it's perfect, but sometimes it might look tidier if you put the paper down first. But, you know, that's where we all get to do things how we want to. For me, I don't mind measuring and, you know, being really specific for certain things, because you have to. I mean, if I didn't measure this, it wouldn't come out right. It would be wonky. But I only want to do so much of that. For me, art is about the less structured side. Okay, now we have our cute little pockets, and these pieces that we cut off and saved will make great tags to go in the pockets. And you might have to trim them down to size. And I've put other things in them besides these. I've cut out images from the collage books and put them on cardstock. So now I have my little pocket cards, and then you can close it all up, and then you have your little book. For this one, I hole punched with a heart-shaped stamp. I don't know if you can see that. And then I just tied a piece of ribbon, I added a little charm, and then, you know, I just am wrapping it up. And I would just tie it through on itself like that. And let's see, this one I just hole punched and tied a piece of ribbon through it. So you could get fancy and put the little eyelets in here. You could use those paper hole covers if you wanted to be more decorative, but I didn't have either of those things at the time I made these, so that is what I have. So those are our little matchbook mini books. That's how you create your template, and I will link the instructions somewhere on my channel with this video. Thank you for watching.